Hello everyone. The title of today's talk is Ancient Scriptures from a Young Future. And so if this idea seems familiar to you, perhaps look to see why. There's a very interesting phenomena happening in human consciousness right now, Mr.Within finds, where certain individuals are recognizing that their new acts and movements of consciousness are on some level simultaneously present as the ones done from before. When you see before mankind, there was a way mankind potentially could have lived that was collective beyond a segmentation of space and time, you will begin to see that man's unknown was beyond a world that could be defined. And that potentiality is suggesting our world. You must explore the next aspects, deeper aspects of your world through the communication of the life around you and present within your moment. In ancient scriptures, one finds that there is an inspiration to move beyond the form. And you as a being are a choice within the choiceless. You have an ability to conceive anything, just like how you have an ability to hear these words or to understand something in this life. Our ability is simple. And based on that, incapability was complex. It becomes really hard after a while to be incapable. Man must surrender the thoughts that do not serve him and recognize what is happening to his being before his human intuition. Mr.Within finds that let us just for a second visualize that all men have come together, and there has been so many renaissances in our ideology that separation has learned to stand collectively, has learned to stand together. When that has happened, you begin to see the mind that is guiding those beings is also on an individual level being made of how many other minds are being kept. Your activity suggests the health of the cosmos. And so, perhaps some things you could not understand was because you were not standing underneath them. Many beings perhaps will find you will begin to see as a human being, your choices are up to how much you want to experience the moment directly. If you're not experiencing it directly, you still think you're something. If you're directly experiencing the moment, you're having an awareness beyond things, so it's no thing, it's nothing. Do you get it? So it is not a nothing that of complete emptiness, but a nothing that your interpretation does not need to be constant self-talk in your head when you're walking gracefully in this world naturally. It is not about, perhaps, how the words are structured, but by how much these words have a potential to break. How much you can begin to see that truth was a greater experience rather than an object of worship. And you must see that the reality of man's subtler planes is ones where, because he does not know, he is seeking certainty. But before perhaps the transition of death comes, it is very important for man to become aware of what this life intelligence, existential life intelligence is, more than the idea that he's been constantly masking it and covering it in. What that means is when I tell you who are you, you have words, you'll tell me your name. But some men, you ask them who are you, and they will look at you with the silence of eternity. It will hit you in such a way where you begin to see they have understood the silence of nature. They have understood that you do not question from a moment that you are not certain of. You question within the moment of certainty, and the question did not suggest a condition or problem you were stuck in, but the ability that within your subtler planes of thought, there are no chains. For just like how quickly man can look at his watch and bring a thought into his head of what time it is, as quickly as that, he can let go of ideology that needs to let go of it. In your associations, there is tons of fallacy. In your disassociations, there seems to be freedom. When you find yourself in a world as a being, one of the most crucial things you need to study is your orientation of what is actually real. And so when you explore this, you see there are methods. Some people are basing what is real based on other information. They are cutting the spectrum up into a cause and effect chain. But it is not that it's wrong, it is just simply that is the wheel of their design. But there are many different ways consciousness explores itself, at times being here and never being here. And that could be as simple as you putting your finger in a pond and then taking it out and just observing those ripples, and once those ripples end, the silence of the pond is as if like you were never there. This world works in ways where our temporal knowledge was never knowledge. Our temporal awareness was never just our pure awareness. The mystics knew, the ancients knew, and the youth know now. Look at the kids of the new generations. They are moving beyond thinking. What that means is I am talking about Pilots Academy, a Pilots Academy, and the pilots of consciousness. These children that are being born are becoming the skies of exploration. Do you see their consciousness is able in such a way acknowledge reality more than the thoughts that are making you constantly stay in some form, shape. Because we see we have to confront death, we have to acknowledge at some point we have to see something more than our ideas, right? I mean, as a self-aware thought, even if you're not believing in eternity, you begin to see still you're considering that you have a self-awareness before the machine shuts down, right? If you're thinking in a mechanical modality of thought. But when you see that when the machine's about to shut down, you will have to still confront it. So why not, within your ability of creativity and thought and this existential allowance right now, you have to look around and have thought and go in different many states of being comfortably. Why not explore the nature of your actuality, dear being? Why not be just a human being with your own thoughts, but be the greatest thought of humanity? Do you see? The world opens through your eyes, my friend. Open the valves. There's no need for keeping a reality that is not serving you when you innately know there is a greater one. That's simply evolution. Part of you knows there's something better, you know? It's just like you go to one party, someone tells you there's another party, you go to another party, you know, that's better. And not to promote parties, but to suggest that in the simplest acts where we think we are troubled by confusion, man still can have an awareness. Beyond names that can be judged, beyond personalities that can be judged. For every moment of living is an understanding of greater presence, an understanding of your being here, you know? I hope that you see you need to engage in this life in many ways, and at first I was avoiding it, but I see that you have to consciously create. You have to put an effort into communicating with your world. Because that is why it's here. That is why there's a world here for you to move in it, to explore, you know? The fish in the gold tank might feel like there's so much more it doesn't understand beyond the edges, but the water and the space and the reality is there for it to be there, right? But now we're not saying that we're fish. We are human beings who are very able, self-aware beings, in the sense that our self-awareness in subtler aspects of our subtler planes of our consideration can merge us into an understanding that we are the experience of our world. What that means is, it's not that certain substances is profound, or certain meditation is profound or enlightenment. It's simply that once you acknowledge the other side of the spectrum, your reality is moving in a spiral of observance that is omnisciently knowing. What that means is, before this reality worked and we are just here, the being knew where it was going. The cosmos knew. Just like how I know where the voice of my ideas lead, which is to the treasure of the most compassionate and transparent silent understanding that you are your universe. That when you are walking in that park, some aspect of you is here as an individual and who you are and what you have to do for work tomorrow, but simultaneously you're very able. You're seeing that we must create room for man to have greater thought, to have more creativity and thought. And we might think our artists have a lot of creativity, but we don't. Because there are patterns of thought, simply beliefs, that are not getting out of the human system. It's like we were this collective, very collective life, you know, intelligence, and suddenly we took a dose of individuality. And suddenly we are now getting rid of the dose of individuality, and we're like, oh gosh, we're seeing life more better. We're seeing more life than the hindrance of the realities we create that are elusive because we do not trust it. Do you see? It is a matter of how you approach the world that the world approaches you. The mirror was strong. For you, we're standing strong in front of your truth. Recognize that compassion, playfulness, these are very important. I mean, communication has many intensities based on the consciousness of the being and the ability of an existential allowance you have. So what that means is, when you look at a child, the child has not developed systems of thought based on certain experiences to constantly think about what it's going to do. So it's giving itself complete existential allowance before it can create an identity to be judged and not to be shy in its environment. Shyness is the sign that your conditioning is working and you're not aware of what an idea is within your experience. Because if you do, then you have a greater ability of choice. And what Mr.Within is saying, by observing the nature of idea, you are seeing what is beyond it, and there can be no bad effect, because you're exploring the cause of all things. What could go wrong? You'll just understand more about how things are caused. Beyond definitions. Perhaps what ancient scriptures from a young future could suggest is that very elegantly we are seeing the greatness of what was the past achievements of man in greater consciousness being found in the beings being born. What that means is, you thought you needed a history book to know history. Look at yourself. You are the torch that's passed down. Do you see? So when you observe human beings and human communication and human inspiration and human ambition, you are seeing an opening into an acceptance of more integrative vision for reality is a temple of understanding form. And the temple is there because you are in constant meditation on manifestation. And if you become aware of it, you see that a meditative state was as natural as how a tree grew into the might of the sequoia. I hope this talk has served you. And remember, the Buddha has this quote, if your compassion does not include yourself, it is incomplete. If you are not also contributing to your better health, to your better maintenance, to your better updating of your understanding, wisdom and experience and self-awareness, you are not fully embracing compassion. Be compassionate to all beings. That is simply the suggestion, which the Dalai Lama has made it very clear. Be compassionate to everything that is present in your moment, including the manifestation, the beings in it, yourself, the awareness of you, and the beauty of how your eyes are hidden, but you are seeing everything. Believe in the excitement of the world that has created a disbeliever. Look at how reality is kept and tell me if communication was just form or a transcendence of form into an awareness of how it was kept. For some may fear a tiger's growl, but others know an extraordinary vision awaits. Much blessings.